sacred book, hidden for centuries, one that claims to hold the truth. It is called the Bardo Thodol, but in the West, it is known by another name, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and what it describes is unlike anything you have ever heard before. Not myths, not speculation, but a precise, step-by-step account of what happens after death. It is not just a religious text, it is a map, a guide written to lead the soul through the most mysterious and terrifying transition of all. And if this book is correct, then death is not the end. It is a passage, a test, a gateway to something far greater or far more terrifying than you could ever imagine. Because according to these teachings, the moment you die is only the beginning. The Bardo Thodol describes a series of events that unfold in the minutes, hours, and days after death. A journey through visions, illusions, and choices. A series of gateways where the mind, free from the body, faces its own fears, its own karma, and its final destiny. Some will transcend, most will return, but only those who understand the truth can navigate what comes next. And so the question is no longer what happens when we die. The real question is, will you be ready? There is a book, not an ordinary book, not something found on a shelf waiting to be casually read. This book was meant to be hidden, meant to be kept away from the unprepared, because what it reveals changes everything. It is known as the Bardo Thodol, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, a text not written for the living, but for those who have already crossed over, a map of the afterlife, a guide to what happens after your final breath. But where did it come from? And more importantly, why was it buried in secrecy? Its origins trace back over 1,000 years to a man who was more than just a scholar, a mystic, a sorcerer, a legend. His name was Padmasambhava. To Tibetan Buddhists, he is not just a historical figure. He is a force, a being so powerful, so enlightened, that his presence still lingers in the fabric of reality itself. In the 8th century, Padmasambhava was invited to Tibet to bring Buddhism to a land still ruled by ancient shamanic traditions. But what he encountered was not just resistance, it was war. The old gods, the spirits of the land, the unseen forces did not welcome him. And so, Padmasambhava did not simply teach, he battled. Through ritual, through magic, through mastery of forces beyond human comprehension, he subdued the spirits, not by destroying them, but by binding them, integrating them, forcing them to serve the path of enlightenment. And it was during this time that he wrote a book unlike any other, a text that would guide souls through the most terrifying, most crucial journey they would ever face, the journey through death. But he knew the world was not ready for this knowledge. He knew that if the teachings fell into the wrong hands, they would be lost, corrupted, or worse, used for power instead of liberation. So he did something radical. He hid it. He concealed the Bardo Thodol in remote caves, locking its wisdom away for future generations. Only those who were meant to find it, those who were truly ready, would uncover its secrets. And for centuries, the book remained in the shadows, a whisper among the initiated, a secret held by monks who spent their lives preparing for the moment of death. But now, something has changed. The book has resurfaced. The knowledge is being revealed. Why? Why now, after centuries of silence? Perhaps the world is shifting. Perhaps consciousness is evolving. Or perhaps something wants us to remember. Death is not instant. The body may stop, but the self remains. For a brief moment, seconds, minutes, maybe even hours, you are still here, aware, watching. watching, feeling something beyond anything you have ever known. In those first moments after death, there is no pain, no struggle, no weight holding you down. Instead, there is a strange lightness, a sense of separation. The Tibetan masters called this the Chikai Bardo, the first stage of the afterlife, the transition, the moment the soul begins to leave the physical world. And what happens next depends entirely on whether you are ready for it. Some describe floating above their own bodies, looking down at the lifeless form they once inhabited. Others say they feel a pull, as if something is guiding them toward an unknown destination. Near-death survivors, those who have been to the edge and returned, tell eerily similar stories. They speak of tunnels of light, of voices calling their names, of a presence, something watching, waiting. They describe a sudden flood of memories, a replay of their entire lives in a single, overwhelming instant. The Tibetan Book of the Dead describes this too. It speaks of the moment when the veil lifts, when all illusions fall away, and the soul sees its true nature. For those prepared, this is the greatest opportunity. A chance to recognize the clear light, the infinite consciousness beyond time, beyond form, the gateway to ultimate liberation. But for most, it is too much. The light is too intense, the truth too vast. Fear takes over. The mind clings to what it has always known. And in that moment of hesitation, the opportunity is lost. The soul retreats, and what follows next is far more unpredictable. Some find themselves drifting, lost in familiar places, unable to accept that they have died. Some enter visions of beauty, of peace, believing they have reached paradise, only to realize later that it is just another illusion. And others step into something far darker. The Tibetan masters warned of this, that if the soul does not recognize the truth in those first moments, if it does not let go of fear, of attachment, it will enter a realm shaped entirely by its own mind. A world where thoughts take form, where fears manifest, where what happens next is no longer dictated by physical laws, but by the deepest, most hidden parts of the soul itself. Some never cross over, not because they can't, but because they won't. In the first moments after death, the soul stands at a threshold, a doorway between worlds, but not everyone steps through. Some hesitate, some resist, some turn back, clinging to the life they just left, unable to accept what has already happened. And so, they remain, trapped, not in hell, not in heaven, but in the space between. The Tibetan masters spoke of this. They called it the grey realm, the state of wandering, the state of confusion. A soul that does not recognize its own death becomes lost in its own illusions. It lingers in familiar places. It walks among the living, unseen, unheard. Some do not realize they are dead at all. They feel the pull of the afterlife, but they resist it because of fear, because of unfinished desires, because of the weight of what they could not let go of in life. Fear is the first chain. The moment of death is overwhelming. The loss of the body, the unraveling of reality, it is too much for the unprepared mind to face. Instead of surrendering, they resist. Instead of letting go, they fight to hold on to what no longer exists. And in doing so, they become stuck. Attachment is the second chain. Some souls do not leave because they cannot bear to part with what they left behind. Loved ones, possessions, regrets, unfinished business. They stay near the living, trying to interact, trying to change things that are already beyond their control. But the living cannot hear them. They call out, they reach out, but their voices are swallowed by silence. And so, they linger. And then, there is karma, the energy of everything left unresolved, the weight of actions taken and actions avoided. For some, this weight pulls them downward, toward lower realms, lower vibrations, a world shaped by the darkness they carried in life. For others, it keeps them wandering, looping through memories, reliving moments over and over again, trapped not by an external force, but by their own mind. Because the truth is, the afterlife is not a single place. It is not a final destination. It is a reflection, a projection of what the soul carries within. For those filled with peace, the journey is effortless. For those filled with fear, the journey is a prison. This is why the Tibetan masters spent their lives preparing for death. Because what happens on the other side is not determined by fate. It is determined by the state of mind you bring with you. And once you cross that threshold, there is no more time to change it. At the moment of death, a radiant light appears, brighter than the sun, vast, infinite, not outside of you, but coming from within. For a brief moment, the soul is free, free from the body, free from the weight of time, of identity, of everything it once believed to be real. And in this moment, there is an opportunity, a doorway, a chance to step beyond the cycle of birth and death, to dissolve into the clear light, the highest state of consciousness, the pure essence of existence itself. The Tibetan Book of the Dead describes this as the single most important moment in the afterlife, a moment that determines everything. But most never make it through, because when the light appears, they don't recognize it. They hesitate. They turn away. They cling to what is familiar, and in doing so, they lose their chance at liberation. This is the first test, and most fail. The clear light is the ultimate truth, the source from which all things arise, the state beyond fear, beyond suffering, beyond illusion. But to the unprepared mind, it is overwhelming. It feels too vast, too powerful. Instead of embracing it, the soul recoils. It searches for something familiar, a body, a memory, a sensation that reminds it of life. And the moment it does, the light fades. The Tibetan masters understood this. This is why they trained for death. Because the mind clings to what it knows. And if in life it never touched the depths of silence, never looked beyond form, beyond self, then in death, it will do what it has always done. It will run from the unknown. It will turn away from the light. And that is where the descent begins. Because once the clear light is gone, what follows is a world created by the mind itself. A world of visions, of illusions, of karma unfolding in forms beyond comprehension. Some will find beauty, some will find nightmares, but few will find their way back to the light. And so the question is not just what happens when you die. The question is, will you recognize the truth when it appears? Or will you, like most, look away? The body grows still, the last breath fades. And yet, something remains. There is no pain, no sudden darkness, no abrupt ending. Instead, there is a shift, a strange lightness, as if the weight of existence has lifted. The body, the one you have known your entire life, feels distant, as if it no longer belongs to you. And then you see it, yourself, lying motionless, silent, a lifeless shell that was once you. Some souls understand immediately. They know they have crossed the threshold, but many do not. The Tibetan Book of the Dead describes this as the Chikai Bardo, the first stage of the afterlife, the moment of separation. For some, it is peaceful, a gentle drifting, a sense of floating, as if the world has become soft, dreamlike. For others, it is disorienting. The mind struggles to grasp what is happening because it still feels alive. It can see, it can think, it can move, but no one responds. It calls out, no one hears. It reaches for the living, but its hands pass through them like air, and slowly, realization begins to set in. The physical world is gone, but consciousness remains. This is the first great truth of the afterlife. You are not your body, you never were. But the mind, conditioned by years of physical existence, refuses to accept it. Some souls panic. They try to wake up, to return to life, but there is no life to return to. Some refuse to move on. They linger, hovering near their bodies, near their homes, near the ones they left behind, unable to let go. And then there are those who recognize what is happening, the ones who remain calm, who do not resist. For them, something else appears, a light, a presence, a doorway opening beyond the limits of the physical world. But not all will enter, because the journey ahead is not easy. The illusions of the mind are about to take shape, and for those who are not prepared, the real test is only beginning. The light fades, and something else begins. The physical world is gone. The body, the breath, the heartbeat, left behind like a dream that has ended. But now, a new world takes shape, a world of visions. Some souls find themselves in places of indescribable beauty. Golden temples, vast celestial landscapes, figures of light welcoming them with warmth and peace. Others find something far different, a realm of shifting shadows, monstrous beings, terrifying shapes that twist and distort, watching, waiting. Some feel peace, some feel fear. But here's what no one tells you. None of it is real, not in the way you think. This is the Chonyid Bardo, the second stage of the afterlife. A world not built by the universe, but by the mind itself. Everything here is a projection, a reflection of the deepest layers of the soul. Those who spent their lives in love, in peace, in wisdom, they see paradise. Those who lived in fear, in guilt, in anger, they see their demons. But both are illusions, because in this realm, thought becomes form. The Tibetan masters warned of this. They knew that the afterlife is not a place of judgment, but a mirror. You do not face gods or demons. You face yourself. The peaceful figures, the divine beings, they are the reflection of your highest self. The terrifying monsters, the raging forces, they are the fears you never confronted in life. But here is the secret. Neither can harm you, unless you believe they can. Because the moment you react, the moment you run, the moment you fight, the moment you try to escape, you are caught in the illusion. And the deeper you fall into it, the harder it is to wake up. Those who recognize the truth, who see through the visions, who do not attach to the beautiful or the terrible, they move forward. They see the light again. But those who don't, they stay, locked in a world of their own creation, not by force, but by choice. And so, the question is not whether the visions are real. The question is, will you recognize them for what they are? Everything you see is you. The golden temples, the divine figures, the radiant beings beings offering peace. They are you, the shadows, the demons, the endless corridors of fear. They are you. Because in the afterlife, there is no external world, only the mind, stripped bare. And for the first time you see it, not through memory, not through the filter of a body, but in raw, undistorted form. This is the test of recognition, and most fail. In the Chonyid Bardo, the realm of visions, karma is no longer hidden. The thoughts you carried in life, the emotions, the beliefs, the fears, become your reality. If you lived in peace, the afterlife unfolds like a paradise. If you lived in turmoil, it takes shape as a nightmare. But both are illusions. Neither is permanent. The Tibetan masters understood this. They warned that the greatest danger after death is believing what you see. Because the moment you attach to the visions, whether beautiful or terrifying, you become trapped. The peaceful figures, the radiant beings, you reach for them, and suddenly they are gone. The terrifying monsters, the haunting voices, you resist them, and they grow stronger. Because the law is simple. What you accept, you transcend. What you resist, you become. Some souls grasp this immediately. They do not react. They do not cling to the light, nor do they run from the darkness. They watch, they understand. And in that moment, the illusion collapses. The visions fade, the world dissolves, and the light appears again. But for those who fail, for those who grasp at paradise, for those who flee in fear, the cycle continues. Karma pulls them downward, toward the next phase, toward rebirth. And so, the afterlife is not about judgment. There is no heaven, there is no hell, there is only reflection. And the question is not whether the visions are real. The question is, will you recognize them before it's too late? The air trembles, a shadow moves, then another, and suddenly they are everywhere. Monstrous faces, twisting forms, eyes burning like fire, voices that shake the very fabric of reality. They roar, they reach, they surround you. But here is the truth no one tells you. They are not real, not in the way you think. The Tibetan Book of the Dead describes these figures in detail. Beasts with 1,000 arms, deities with fangs dripping with blood, beings that tear at the sky and howl in rage. They are terrifying, unrelenting, but they are not here to destroy you. They are here because you brought them with you. They are not demons. They are not punishments. They are you. Every suppressed fear, every buried regret, every piece of anger and shame that was locked away in life, now standing before you, taking form. Because in the afterlife, nothing stays hidden. And the moment you enter the Chonyid Bardo, the realm of visions, the mind unfolds completely. Everything you ran from in life is waiting for you now, but not to punish you, to be faced. Because the afterlife is not a place of judgment. It is a place of reflection. And the greatest test of all is this. Can you see the truth? The soul that understands does not run. It does not fight. It does not beg for escape. It watches. And when it does, the monsters fade. The beings dissolve. Because they were never separate from you. They were never something to fear. They were the shadows of the mind, projected outward, shaped by karma, created by the energy you carried in life. And if you recognize them for what they are, they lose all power. But for those who do not, for those who run, who scream, who resist, something else happens. The visions grow stronger, the forms become darker, the world begins to shift, pulling them deeper. Because in this realm, fear does not save you. Fear is what traps you. What you reject persists. What you fight, fights back. illusion, you become lost inside it. Silence. The chaos is gone. The shadows fade. The roaring stops. And in their place, something else appears. A vast, golden light. A presence beyond words. Peaceful, radiant, infinite. Figures emerge, luminous beings, gentle and wise. Some take the form of Buddhas, deities of light, celestial guides. Others appear as ancestors, familiar faces filled with warmth. They do not speak, yet you understand. They are here to help, but only if you recognize them, because just like the wrathful beings before them, they are you. The Tibetan Book of the Dead describes this as the final chance, the last moment in the afterlife where true liberation is possible. If the soul recognizes these beings as projections of its own higher nature, if it does not cling to them, if it does not worship them as something separate, then it is free. No more rebirth, no more illusions, no more suffering, only light, only liberation. But even now, most fail, because even peace, even beauty can be a trap. The mind, untrained, sees these beings and reaches for them. It desires to stay, to attach, to merge into paradise, into comfort, into something outside itself. And the moment it does, the beings fade, the light dims, and slowly, the next stage begins. Because those who do not recognize the illusion, those who still believe in division, in separation, in something beyond themselves, they are not ready. And so the journey does not end. It continues into the next realm, into the next test, and for most, into the cycle once again. The light fades, the visions dissolve, and now there is only movement, a pull, a force drawing the soul forward, subtle at first, then stronger, unstoppable. This is the Sidpa Bardo, the final stage, the moment where destiny unfolds. For most, there is no choice. The weight of past actions, past thoughts, past desires. This is what pulls the soul into its next life. Because karma is not just an idea, it is a force, a current, a river that carries the soul toward the next body, the next experience, the next illusion of existence. Everything that was left unresolved in life, every attachment, every craving, every fear, becomes the blueprint for what comes next. Some souls feel drawn toward warmth, toward new parents, new homes. They see glimpses of faces, of places. They are pulled into bodies waiting to be born. Others, burdened by pain, by guilt, by the weight of their past, descend into lives of struggle, of hardship, of suffering, not as punishment, but as a reflection, a continuation of the energy they carried within them. This is how the cycle continues. Birth, death, rebirth, again and again, until the lesson is learned. But a rare few choose something else. These are the souls who recognize the illusion, who see through the pull of karma, through the longing for form, for identity, for another life. Instead of following the current, they step outside of it. They do not attach. They do not resist. They simply let go. And in that surrender, they break free. No more rebirth. No more forgetting. Only light. Only liberation. The Tibetan masters called this the Great Escape. The moment where the soul dissolves into something greater. Not as an ending, but as a return. Because in truth, there was never anything to escape. There was never anywhere to go. There was only this. There was only awareness. And for those who see it, who truly see it, the journey ends, or perhaps it finally begins. There is a moment, a final threshold, a space where the past, the future, and the weight of every decision converge into one choice: to return or to leave it all behind. Most never realize they have a choice at all. They feel the pull of reincarnation, a force so strong, so absolute, that resisting it seems impossible. The longing for form, for sensation, for existence itself. Memories flash, faces, places, the echoes of unfinished desires. A deep hunger to experience, to feel, to be. And just like that, they are pulled back in. A new life begins, a new body, a new identity, a continuation of the same lessons, the same struggles, the same illusions over and over again. But a rare few awaken. They see the pull for what it is, not fate, not destiny, but attachment, the final illusion. Because reincarnation is not a prison, it is a choice. And those who recognize this, who do not grasp for the next life, who do not cling to the past, discover something astonishing. The pull begins to weaken, the cycle begins to loosen, and in that space of stillness, a door appears. A door beyond birth, beyond death, beyond existence itself. But stepping through it requires something most are not ready to surrender: the self. Because to escape the cycle is to dissolve into something greater, to release identity, to release every attachment, every illusion, every single thing that once felt like you. It is not a step forward, it is a return to the infinite, a return to the source. This is what the Tibetan masters train for, not for paradise, not for rewards, for the ability to wake up in the final moment and choose. And now, that choice is yours. What if you could decide? What if you could leave the cycle behind, never return, never forget, never fall back into the dream of life again? Would you take that final step? Or would you hesitate and let the current pull you back in? The Bardo Thodol was never just a book for the dead. It was a guide for the living. A map, not for the body, but for the mind. Not for the end, but for every moment leading up to it. Because death is not something that happens to you. It is something you must prepare for. The Tibetan masters knew this. They understood that the state of mind at the moment of death determines everything. And so they trained, not in temples made of stone, but in the vast, silent spaces of their own consciousness. They practiced dying. They lay still for hours, breathing slowly, detaching from their own bodies, as if they had already left them. They meditated on the dissolution of self, watching thoughts rise and fall, emotions appear and vanish, learning to let go of every attachment before death forced them to. Because if they could master detachment in life, they would not fear it in death. They visualized the bardos, the states between worlds, so that when the time came, when the visions appeared, when the illusions of the mind took shape, they would recognize them, they would see through them, and instead of being pulled back into the cycle, they would move beyond it. Liberation would not come by accident, it would come by mastery. And here is the greatest secret of all. Mastering death is not about what happens after the final breath. It is about how you live. Because the same forces that shape the afterlife, attachment, fear, desire, illusion, are shaping your reality right now. The same mind that will project visions in the bardos is the same mind projecting your life today. And so, the monks prepared, not just to die well, but to live fully, without clinging, without fear, without illusions clouding their vision. Because to master death is to master the art of letting go. And those who learn to let go are free. There is a reason you were never taught this. A reason why these teachings, so detailed, so precise, were hidden for centuries. Not just because they were sacred, but because they were dangerous. Dangerous to the systems that rely on fear. Dangerous to those who profit from control. Because if you knew the truth, if you understood what the Tibetan masters really taught, no one could ever control you again. Modern religions tell us that after death, we are judged, that we are sent to heaven or cast into hell, that we must repent, obey, follow. But the Bardo Todo says something very different. It does not speak of punishment. It does not speak of a final reckoning. It speaks of choice, that in death you are not judged by an external God, but by your own mind, that heaven and hell are not places, but projections, that what comes next is not dictated by an almighty ruler, but by the energy you carry with you, and that the ultimate liberation, the escape from suffering, from reincarnation, from the endless cycle, does not come through worship. It comes through understanding, through recognition, through knowing without doubt that the illusions of the mind are just that, illusions. This is why these teachings were erased. Because a soul that knows it is free cannot be manipulated. A mind that sees through fear cannot be controlled. If you believe that salvation comes from an external power, you will always look outward. You will obey. You will submit. But if you understand that everything, heaven, hell, God, demons, rebirth, liberation, all of it exists within you, then you become something else entirely. You become untouchable. This is why the knowledge was buried. Not because it was false, but because it was too true, too powerful, too dangerous for those who built entire empires on keeping people blind. Because those who understand this can never be controlled. Science is just now catching up. For centuries, the Tibetan Book of the Dead described the journey of the soul, the moment of separation, the tunnel of light, the visions, the feeling of floating above one's own body. And for centuries, the modern world dismissed it. A religious myth, a cultural story, nothing more. But then, something happened. Doctors, scientists, and researchers began collecting stories, testimonies from those who had died and returned. And what they found was impossible to ignore. People across the world, from every background, describing the same thing. A sudden feeling of detachment from the body. A light, blinding, radiant, all-encompassing. Beings waiting for them. Sometimes peaceful, sometimes terrifying. A panoramic review of life, flashing in an instant. And then, the moment of choice. To stay, or to return. These were not monks, not mystics. They were doctors, soldiers, survivors of accidents, people with no reason to believe in the afterlife, until they experienced it themselves. And when scientists studied these reports, when they measured brain activity in the final moments of life, they discovered something shocking. At the point of death, something happens. Neuroscientists found that as the body shuts down, the brain surges, a final burst of electrical activity, unlike anything seen in waking life, a sudden, intense flood of consciousness. And in that moment, something separates, something moves beyond. Some call it the mind, some call it energy. The Tibetan masters called it awareness. Quantum physics suggests that at the smallest level, reality is not solid. It is not fixed. It is not even separate from the observer. That consciousness and reality are linked. That the universe itself is not made of matter, but of perception. And if this is true, then death is not an ending. It is a transition, a shift in awareness from one state to another. The monks knew it first. Science is just now catching up. And soon, even the skeptics may have to ask themselves the question no one wants to face. What if the afterlife isn't a belief? What if it's real? Death is not the end. It is not the enemy. It is a doorway. And the Tibetan masters understood something that most of the world has forgotten. You do not wait until the final breath to prepare for death. You prepare now, because the way you die is determined by the way you live. In the West, death is feared, ignored, pushed to the shadows. We pretend it is far away, that it belongs to someone else, that it will not come for us until it does. And when that moment arrives, when the illusions begin to dissolve, the unprepared mind panics. It clings, it resists, it fears what it never dared to face. And so, the cycle repeats. Birth, death, rebirth, again and again, until the lesson is learned. But there is another way. The Tibetan monks train for death as if it were the final test of life. Because to die well is to live well. They practiced detachment. They meditated on impermanence, on the temporary nature of all things, so that when the moment came, they could let go without fear. They visualized the bardos, the states between worlds, over and over again, so that when they entered them, they would not be fooled. They trained the mind to remain clear, still and awake, so that in death, they would not fall into illusion. And most of all, they lived fully, because when you do not fear death, you do not fear life. You do not waste time on trivial things. You do not cling to what will inevitably fade. You love without fear. You act without hesitation. You walk through life with clarity, knowing that when the final moment comes, you will not run. You will not be pulled back by regret. You will step forward, calm, clear, aware, because those who prepare for death are the ones who truly learn how to live. Close your eyes. Breathe in, breathe out. For a moment, the world fades. The noise, the distractions, the endless stream of thoughts, they begin to quiet. And in that silence, something else appears. Stillness, awareness, a presence that was always there, hidden beneath the surface of the mind. This is meditation. And it is more than just a practice. It is training for death. The Tibetan masters knew that in the afterlife, the greatest danger is illusion. That when the body is gone, when the senses fade, the mind will still be there, creating, shaping, projecting. And those who do not recognize this are trapped by it. The peaceful visions, the terrifying entities, the pull of reincarnation. They are not external forces. They are the mind, unraveling itself. And in that moment, when the light appears, when the test begins, only those who have learned to steady the mind will see the truth. Because in meditation, you do what death requires of you. You let go. You watch your thoughts, but you do not cling to them. You witness fear, but you do not become it. You dissolve the illusion of self, again and again, so that when the time comes, when the body falls away, the mind will not panic. It will not resist. It will not grasp for what is no longer there. Instead, it will remain still, clear, aware, and in that awareness, it will recognize the light. This is why monks meditate for hours, for days, not to escape the world, but to prepare for the moment when the world escapes them, because death is the final meditation, and those who have trained for it will not be afraid, they will not be lost, they will see, and seeing is the only way to be free. Breathe in, breathe out, again, slower this time, deeper. Feel the air enter your lungs, feel it leave. Now imagine, you stop, not from fear, not from force, but by choice. Everything stills, the breath, the mind, the body. And in that silence something shifts. This is the secret the Tibetan monks knew. That breath is the bridge between life and death. That by controlling it, by mastering it, you can step beyond the body before death ever comes. They called it Tumo Pranayama, vase breathing. Different names, same purpose. To bring the body to the edge, to slow the heart, to quiet the mind, to mimic the state of death while still alive. Not to induce fear, but to dissolve it. Because the moment the breath stops, the body believes it is dying, but the mind remains. And if it is prepared, if it does not panic, if it does not resist, it will awaken. It will see that it is not bound to form, that it exists beyond the limits of flesh, that it is something vast, something infinite. This is why monks practice breath work for hours, holding, releasing, holding again. They push their bodies past what seemed possible, not to prove strength, but to learn surrender, to feel death before it came, to meet it without fear. Because those who can stop breathing and remain still, who can face that moment and not recoil, they will not struggle when the real test arrives. They will not gasp for life. They will not be pulled back by panic. They will simply step through, calm, aware, ready, because they have already been there before. Death is not meant to be sudden, not in the way we think, not something to fear, not something to avoid until the last moment. It is meant to be prepared for, faced, met with awareness. The Tibetan masters understood this. For them, dying was not an accident. It was an art, a transition that could be navigated with clarity, with control, with purpose. And so, they created rituals, not for the dead, but for the dying, for those who wish to leave this world fully conscious, fully awake. One of the most sacred of these was Phowa, the practice of transference, a technique so powerful, so precise, that it was said to allow a person to exit the body at will. No suffering, no fear, just stillness, and then release. It begins with focus, a visualization of light, pure, radiant, infinite, rising through the crown of the head. The breath slows, the body weakens, and as the final moments approach, the mind does something most cannot. It does not cling. It does not grasp for life. It lets go. And in that surrender, something extraordinary happens. The soul rises, like mist leaving the ocean, like a flame released from the wick. It does not drift in confusion. It does not linger in fear. It moves directly toward the light. Phowa was not the only ritual. There were chants, whispered in the ear of the dying, meant to remind the soul of what was coming next. There were sacred mantras, repeated over and over, so that the last thing the mind heard before death was the sound of its own awakening. There were meditations, where monks rehearsed their own deaths again and again, lying still for hours, slowing their breath until it almost ceased, so that when the real moment came, they would not panic. They would not be lost. They would step through the door, fully aware. And this is the great secret, that death does not have to be chaotic. It does not have to be a sudden void, a moment of terror. It can be clear, it can be peaceful, it can be a choice, but only if the mind is ready, only if the soul has been prepared, because no ritual, no mantra, no sacred technique can force awareness upon you. They can only guide you to the threshold. You must be the one to walk through. Death is not random, not to those who understand it, not to those who have spent their lives preparing for the final moment. Because the Tibetan masters knew something few do. You do not have to die in fear. You do not have to be pulled away, confused, lost in a storm of memories and attachments. You can leave this world with clarity, with choice. You can control the moment of death. The secret lies in the mind, because death is not about the body. The body falls away. It was never truly you. What remains is awareness, and where that awareness goes next, that is determined in the final breath. The monks trained for this moment. They practiced dying before death arrived. They meditated at the edges of mountains, in the depths of caves, slowing their hearts, stilling their minds, learning to detach from the body while still alive. Because if you can detach in life, you can detach in death. And if you can detach in death, you are free. Some monks were said to choose their final moment, to sit in meditation, eyes half closed, breath slowing, as if preparing for sleep. Then, without struggle, without hesitation, they simply left. No suffering, no confusion. Just a final exhale, and the awareness rising beyond the body. They called it Samadhi death, the moment of conscious departure, a perfect transition, because to them death was not an end. It was a passage, a doorway, and those who stepped through with awareness, they were not pulled back, not trapped in illusion, not caught in fear. They did not wander. They did not return. They simply dissolved into light, into the vastness beyond form. And so the question is not whether death will come. It will. The question is, will you be ready? Nothing is forgotten, not a thought, not a word, not a single action. Everything leaves a mark. Everything returns. This is karma, not as punishment, not as reward, but as balance. The energy you create is the energy you meet again. And in the afterlife, there is no escaping it, because karma is not something handed down by a god. It is not a set of rules. It is the very fabric of reality, the current that carries the soul from one life to the next. In death, when the body is gone, when there is nothing left to hide behind, the truth of your existence is revealed. Everything you did, everything you thought, every choice, every intention, it is all there, shaping what comes next. The Bardo Todol describes it with perfect clarity. If a soul has lived in love, in wisdom, in selflessness, it moves toward light, toward liberation. If a soul has lived in greed, in fear, in hatred, it is pulled downward, not as punishment, but because that is what it has created for itself. Some feel the weight immediately, the regrets, the pain they caused, the things left undone, and they beg for another chance. And karma answers, not with mercy, not with cruelty, but with the next life, a new body, a new beginning, an opportunity to face what was left unresolved. But there is another path, one that only a few ever take, to leave it all behind, to break the cycle. Because karma is not just what pulls you back into life, it is also what binds you to the illusion of self. And those who truly understand this, who see beyond it, are no longer controlled by it. They do not cling to the good. They do not resist the bad. They simply let go. And in that moment, karma dissolves. There is no past, no future, no rebirth. Only awareness, only freedom. And so the question is not what karma will bring you. The question is, will you rise above it? Most souls do not escape. They do not transcend. They do not dissolve into light or move beyond the cycle. They return, again and again. Lifetime after lifetime, body after body. Not because they are forced to, but because they do not realize they have a choice. Reincarnation is not a prison. It is a pattern, a loop, a cycle that repeats itself, not because it must, but because the mind clings to what is familiar. The moment death arrives, the illusions begin. The tunnel of light, the voices of loved ones, the pull toward a new existence, and the soul, still attached, still longing, follows the current. It sees visions of paradise, of celestial realms, of beauty beyond imagination, and it reaches for them. Or it sees its past, its regrets, its unfinished desires, and it tries to correct them. But in both cases, whether it chases light or runs from darkness, the soul falls back into the cycle, because the secret is this: heaven is not escape, hell is not punishment. They are both illusions, both projections of the mind, and the soul that believes in them is bound by them. The Tibetan masters understood this. They warned that even the most beautiful visions are a trap, that if you reach for them, if you desire them, if you attach to them, you will return. Because desire itself is the chain, the longing to experience, to be, to exist as something separate from the whole. This is what pulls souls back into bodies, what keeps them moving through the cycle of birth and death. The cycle does not hold you. You hold on to the cycle, and the only way out is to let go, not just of suffering, but of everything, of identity, of form, of the need to exist at all. And that is the final test. The moment when the soul either steps beyond or reaches back and begins again. What if you saw the truth before death came? What if you realized right now that everything you believe yourself to be is just a passing dream? That your name, your past, your fears, your desires are not you? That the world around you, solid and real as it seems, is nothing more than a projection, a temporary flicker in the vastness of consciousness? The Tibetan masters knew this. They spent their lives dissolving the illusion, so that when death arrived, it had no power over them. Because those who see through the illusion before they die are no longer bound by it. They do not panic when the body fails. They do not cling when the breath stops. They do not grasp for what is already gone. Instead, they watch, silent, still, aware, and in that moment, when others would be pulled into visions, lost in the unfolding dream of the afterlife, they do something different. They let go, completely, not just of the body, not just of identity, but of self. And in doing so, they escape. No rebirth, no wandering, no illusions waiting to trap them again. Only light, only awareness, only liberation. This is the final secret. That death does not have to be a test. It can be a choice, but only for those who wake up before the dream ends. Death is not the end. It never was. It is a passage, a doorway, a shift from one state of being to another. The body fades, The senses dissolve. The world you once knew vanishes like mist in the morning sun. But something remains. Awareness, pure, unshaken, watching as the great illusion unravels. The Tibetan Book of the Dead was never just about what happens after life. It was a guide, a reminder that everything you fear about death is a misunderstanding, that the terror of the unknown, the clinging to existence, the desperate grasp for something solid, is what keeps you trapped, because nothing real is lost. The true self, the awareness beneath all thought, all identity, does not die. It moves, it transforms, it steps beyond what was once familiar and into something greater. But few ever realize this, because few are prepared to let go. They see death as an ending, a void, a darkness, and in that belief, they make it real. But the monks knew. They did not resist when death came. They did not fight to hold onto a world that was already slipping away. Instead, they stepped forward, calm, aware, knowing that death was not the loss of self, but the loss of illusion. And those who understand this, those who see death not as something to fear, but as a return to what they always were, they are free, because the final teaching is simple. Death is not the end. It is only the beginning. Beyond the bardos, beyond the illusions, beyond the final breath, what remains? What happens to the soul that does not grasp, that does not return? The Tibetan masters spoke of many realms, many paths, many cycles, but beyond them all, there is something else, something nameless, something infinite, something that cannot be seen or imagined because it has no form. The moment the soul steps past the illusions of the bardos, past the peaceful and wrathful visions, past the pull of rebirth, it enters the formless, a state where time no longer moves, where space no longer exists, where there is no separation, no self, no other, only awareness. Some call it enlightenment. Some call it the source, the ocean from which all consciousness arises and to which all consciousness returns. The monks trained for this, not to escape death, but to dissolve into what lies beyond it, to merge with the vastness, the silent, endless expanse of pure existence. But this is not something that can be described, because words belong to the mind, and what exists beyond the bardos is beyond the mind. No thought, no form, only being, only light. And so, the final secret is this: death is not a journey from one place to another. It is a journey from illusion to truth, from dreaming to waking, from forgetting to remembering. And those who pass through the bardos without fear, without grasping, without clinging to form, they do not return. They do not fall back into the cycle. They become what they always were, what they always will be, the infinite, the awareness beneath all things, not lost, not gone, but home. What if this book is right? What if everything you have been told about death was incomplete? What if the final breath is not an end, not a void, not an oblivion, but the beginning of the greatest journey you will ever take? The Tibetan Book of the Dead has survived for centuries, passed from teacher to student, whispered in the ears of the dying, hidden away until the world was ready to hear it. And now it has reached you, not by accident, not by coincidence, but because something within you is already searching, already questioning, because the truth has been buried, and those who uncover it are never the same again. What if the book is right? What if the moment of death is not something to fear, but something to prepare for? What if everything you see after that moment, the light, the darkness, the gods, the demons, are all reflections of your own mind? What if there is no judgment, no heaven, no hell, only a test to see if you recognize the illusion, a test to see if you are ready to step beyond it? If the book is right, then everything changes. Fear dissolves. The grip of the material world loosens. You stop chasing. You stop clinging. You stop running from death and start preparing for it. Because those who prepare are free. And so the real question is not whether this book is true. The real question is, are you ready to see for yourself? When the final moment comes, when the breath slows, when the body begins to fade, there is one thing you must remember. One truth that will determine everything that happens next. You are not your body. You never were. The hands, the face, the name, the identity, all of it was temporary. A mask worn for a brief time. But the awareness behind it, that is eternal. And when death arrives, when the world begins to dissolve, when everything you thought was real starts slipping away, this is the moment to wake up. Do not cling. Do not resist. Do not be afraid. Because what comes next is not punishment. It is not an ending. It is a reflection. Everything you see, whether it is light or darkness, gods or demons, peace or terror, it is all you. Nothing outside of you has power over you, unless you believe that it does. This is the final test, the moment where most souls fail. Because they forget that the afterlife is a dream. That heaven and hell are not places, but projections. That fear, attachment, and longing pull them back into new lives, new bodies, new cycles of suffering. But those who remember, those who stay still, those who do not grasp at illusions, they pass through. They see the light not as something separate, but as what they have always been. They do not fall. They do not return. They step beyond the cycle. They wake up. And so, when that moment comes, when death arrives at your doorstep, remember, let go, stay aware, and watch as the illusion fades. If death is not the end, if everything you experience after the final breath is shaped by your own mind, then what does that mean for the life you are living right now? Because if the afterlife is a reflection of consciousness, then life itself is no different. The fears you carry, the attachments that hold you back, the thoughts that shape your reality, they are not just influencing this moment, they are determining what comes next. Most people live as if death is far away, something to worry about later, something to avoid thinking about. But the monks knew better. They understood that every action, every thought, every habit is preparing them for the moment they leave this world. Because in the end, the way you live is the way you will die. A life spent in fear will lead to a death filled with fear. A life of attachment will create a struggle at the final breath. A restless mind in life will be restless in the afterlife. But a mind that is clear, a mind that is free, a mind that understands the nature of illusion, that mind will not be afraid. That mind will not panic. That mind will step into death fully aware. This is why meditation matters. This is why detachment is taught. Not to remove you from life, not to strip you of emotion, but to prepare you for the moment when everything you think is real begins to fall away. And so the real question is not what happens when you die. The real question is, are you living in a way that prepares you for that moment? Because in the end, death is not something that happens to you. It is something you are already moving toward. And when the time comes, will you be ready? What if everything in life has been preparing you for one final test? Not a test of punishment, not a test of judgment, but a test of awareness. Because when the last breath leaves your body, when the world dissolves, when you are no longer what you once believed yourself to be, something happens, a moment of clarity, a single opportunity, a door appears, and in that instant, everything depends on whether you recognize it. The Tibetan masters understood this. They knew that death is not chaos. T is precise. It follows a pattern, a sequence of illusions unfolding like a dream, each one designed to see if you will cling or let go. If you chase the visions, if you fight the fears, if you hold on to the last remnants of self, you fail and the cycle begins again. But if you stay still, if you watch without grasping, if you see through the illusions instead of falling into them, you pass, not into a heaven, not into a paradise, but into something greater, something beyond all description, a return to what you always were, before birth, before time, before identity. And that is the great secret, that death is not the end. It is the final question, the last moment where you decide, do I return or do I wake up? The final moment will come, for you, for me, for everyone. No one escapes it. The only question is, will you be ready? Not ready in the way most people think. Not with wealth, not with status, not with achievements to cling to. None of that matters when the breath fades. None of that follows you beyond the threshold. What matters is awareness. Because when the illusions begin, when the mind unravels, when the visions rise, only those who see the truth will pass through. The truth that you were never your body, that you were never your name, that everything you feared, everything you chased, everything you thought was real, was only a dream. And the moment you recognize that, the moment you truly let go, you are free. No more cycles, no more illusions, no more returning, only light, only stillness, only the infinite. This knowledge has been hidden, buried, suppressed, because those who understand it can never be controlled. They do not fear death. They do not cling to life. They walk with clarity, knowing that when the final breath comes, they will not hesitate. And now, this knowledge belongs to you. You have heard what the monks knew. You have seen what lies beyond. So ask yourself, when the time comes, will you be ready? Or will you, like most, forget? The choice has always been yours. You have seen the path. You've walked through the teachings. Now, there is only one question left. What do you believe? Is death an ending, a beginning, a doorway to something beyond imagination? Or is it, as the Tibetan masters taught, a test, a reflection of everything you have carried, a final moment where you either wake up or fall back into the cycle once again? Most people go through life avoiding this question. They distract themselves. They cling to the temporary. But you are here. You have heard what few ever hear. And now you cannot go back. Because once you see the truth, you can never unsee it. So now the choice is yours. To live as if death is far away, or to prepare as if it is the greatest journey you will ever take. To forget these words, or to use them as a map. Because when the moment comes, when the breath slows, when the illusions rise, Did you awaken? Or did you sleep through it all? What do you think happens after death? Comment below. Let's start the conversation. And if you're ready to go deeper, if you want to uncover the mysteries beyond this life, subscribe. Because this is just the beginning. Energy follows awareness. And now that you see, you can never unsee. Thanks for watching. What if I told you that there are 7 ancient laws that govern everything? Your thoughts, your emotions, your destiny. Laws so powerful that those who understand them become architects of their own reality, while those who remain ignorant are forever controlled by forces they cannot see. These laws are not philosophy. They are not speculation. They are the blueprint of existence itself. Every great mind, every mystic, every enlightened being, every master of reality has known them. Yet, this knowledge was never meant for the masses. For centuries, it was hidden, erased, and buried beneath myth and deception. Because those who control these laws control the world. But today, that knowledge is yours. This is the lost wisdom of Hermes Trismegistus, the sage, the alchemist, the god of wisdom himself. His teachings, inscribed in the emerald tablets and passed down through the Kybalion, contain the keys to understanding the true nature of reality. They reveal the hidden mechanisms of the universe, how thoughts shape matter, how vibration determines destiny, how energy can be bent, transformed and mastered. But here's what they never told you. These laws are at work right now. They are shaping your life in every moment, whether you realize it or not. Every decision, every event, every so-called coincidence is governed by them. And the difference between those who thrive and those who struggle is awareness. Most people move through life blind to these forces, reacting instead of creating, trapped inside a system they do not even realize exists. But when you see the truth, when you understand the game being played, everything changes. You stop being a pawn and you become the master. Because once you know the rules, you can bend them, use them, shape them to create the reality you desire. So let me ask you, do you want to remain asleep, drifting through life unaware? Or do you want to take back control, to awaken, to master, to command the very fabric of existence itself? Because after today, you will never see the world the same way again. Welcome to the 7 Hermetic Laws. Welcome to the hidden architecture of reality. And now, let us begin. Knowledge is power, but true knowledge, the kind that reveals the very mechanics of reality, is dangerous. Not to those who seek enlightenment, but to those who seek control. For thousands of years, the wisest minds understood this. The ancient initiates, the mystics, the hidden orders, they knew that reality was not chaos, but law. That existence itself was built upon 7 sacred principles, governing everything from the movement of the stars to the whispers of the mind. But such knowledge was never meant for the masses. It was kept behind the walls of mystery schools, temples, and secret brotherhoods, passed only to those who proved themselves worthy, disciplined, and prepared. Because to reveal these laws to the untrained mind, to those who lacked wisdom, patience, or integrity, was to risk disaster. Imagine, for a moment, if the power to bend reality fell into the hands of the greedy, the corrupt, the rulers who already sought to dominate the world through war, deception, and fear. That is why Hermetic wisdom was veiled in symbols, encoded in allegory, and hidden within sacred texts. It was spoken of in riddles, written in languages long forgotten, and preserved only by those who vowed to protect it from misuse. And for a time, this secrecy preserved the balance. But then, something changed. Empires rose, hungry for absolute dominion. Religions sought to consolidate power, eliminating anything that challenged their authority. Kings and priests, rulers and conquerors, all understood one thing. Knowledge is the greatest weapon of all. And so, the suppression began. Books were burned, scholars were silenced. Entire civilizations that carried this wisdom, the Egyptians, the Gnostics, the Cathars, the alchemists of the Renaissance, were wiped out, erased from history. Their teachings branded as heresy, witchcraft, forbidden magic. But why? Because those who understand these laws cannot be controlled. They do not bow to false power. They do not believe in scarcity, fear, or limitation. A mind that knows how reality works is a mind that is free. And so, a new system was built. One that kept people blind. One that taught them to live reactively instead of creatively. To follow orders, to conform. To believe that reality was fixed. That their fate was decided by luck, chance, or forces beyond their control. But the truth was never lost. It survived in whispers, in secret manuscripts, in symbols hidden in plain sight. It found its way into the hands of those willing to seek it. And today, it has found its way to you. Now, you stand at a crossroads. Remain asleep, or wake up. Because the moment you begin to see, the moment you begin to understand the forces that shape your life, there is no going back. The world will never look the same again. And that is where the real journey begins. Nothing in this universe is random. What appears to be chaos is in truth order, a structure, a design, a blueprint written into the very fabric of existence itself. For those who remain unaware, life seems unpredictable. A series of coincidences, chance events, and unexplained mysteries. But for those who see beneath the surface, the illusion fades, patterns emerge. The hidden architecture of reality reveals itself. At the heart of it all lie 7 universal laws. These are not human inventions. They were not created by philosophers or scholars. They were discovered, etched into reality long before the first civilizations rose, before the first words were spoken, before the first thought was formed. The ancients knew them. Hermes Trismegistus, the Egyptian priest kings, the mystics of old. They studied these principles not as abstract ideas, but as the very forces that shape existence. These laws govern everything. They dictate the movement of galaxies and the rhythm of your breath. They control the rise and fall of civilizations, the success and failure of every endeavor, the health of your body, the power of your mind. They determine what you attract, what you repel, what you create. Most people drift through life, completely unaware of them, like a sailor lost at sea, unaware of the currents that pull him in every direction. But those who understand these laws, they are no longer moved by the tides. They command them. Each law is a key. And when you hold all 7, you possess something rare, something dangerous, something powerful. The first is mentalism. Everything begins in the mind. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your emotions, they shape your world, whether you realize it or not. Then there is correspondence. As above, so below. The patterns of the cosmos are reflected in the smallest details of your life. What happens within you is mirrored outside of you. Change the inner world, and the outer must follow. Vibration. Nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything pulses. Everything vibrates. And what you vibrate at, your frequency, determines what you attract, what you experience, what you become. Polarity. Opposites are not enemies. They are two sides of the same force. Understanding this allows you to shift states at will, from fear to confidence, from darkness to light, from limitation to power, rhythm. Life moves in cycles, success and failure, highs and lows. Those who fight the flow suffer. Those who understand it ride the waves instead of being crushed by them. Cause and effect. There is no luck, no accidents. Every action, every choice, every thought ripples through existence, returning in ways most people never see coming. And finally, gender. Not as biology, but as creation itself. The masculine and the feminine. The active and the receptive. Mastering this balance unlocks the full potential of the mind, body, and soul. 7 laws, interconnected, absolute. They do not bend, they do not break, they do not care if you believe in them. But once you understand them, once you learn to use them, nothing in your life will ever be the same. Because reality is not something that happens to you. It is something you create. And now, the blueprint is in your hands. For centuries, science dismissed what the mystics had always known. That reality is not fixed. That thought shapes matter. That consciousness is not just an observer, but a creator. The ancients whispered these truths in sacred temples. They carved them into stone, hid them in scrolls, passed them through secret teachings, knowing that one day the world would be forced to listen. And now, that time has come. Because today, the very fields of quantum physics, neuroscience, and energy research are confirming what Hermetic wisdom has taught for thousands of years. Reality is not solid. It is a field of possibilities waiting to be shaped. At the quantum level, particles do not exist in a definite state until they are observed. They exist as waves of potential, mere probabilities, until something interacts with them, forcing them to take a form. This is known as the observer effect. A single conscious act of observation collapses infinite possibilities into one reality. Think about that. The act of looking, of focusing attention, of directing consciousness. It literally changes the nature of existence itself. But the ancients already knew this. Mentalism, the first Hermetic law, teaches that everything is mind, that the universe itself is a mental projection shaped by perception, belief, and thought. For centuries, this was seen as mysticism, as philosophy. But now, physicists are beginning to ask the same questions. If observation changes reality, then what role does consciousness truly play in the universe? It doesn't stop there. Neuroscience is uncovering something even more shocking. Your thoughts are not contained within your skull. Your emotions, your intentions, your very consciousness, they radiate outward. Your brain emits an electromagnetic field that extends beyond your body. Every thought you have, every emotion you feel, every intention you set, it carries energy, broadcasting out into the world. Ancient mystics called this the aura, the biofield, the life force. Today, researchers can measure it. The HeartMath Institute has discovered that the electromagnetic field of the heart extends several feet outside the body, pulsing, shifting, reacting to emotions. It influences not only your own body, but the energy of those around you. Your vibration, the frequency of your thoughts and emotions, is not some abstract concept. It is real, measurable, affecting reality in ways science is only beginning to understand. And yet, the mystics knew it first. They understood that to change your life, you must first change your mind. That to master reality, you must first master your own frequency. The question is, if modern science is just now catching up, How much more do the ancients still know that we have yet to discover? Because what has been revealed so far is only the beginning. Everything you have ever seen, touched, or experienced began first as a thought, not just in your own mind, but in the very fabric of reality itself. The ancients called it mentalism, the first and most fundamental of the 7 Hermetic laws. The all is mind, the universe is mental. This is not a metaphor, it is not philosophy, it is a statement of absolute truth. Everything, matter, energy, time itself, exists within a vast, infinite consciousness. The world around you is not something separate from you. It is a projection, a dream, a manifestation of thought. Your thoughts are not passive. They are forces. They ripple outward, shaping the reality you experience. And yet, most people live their entire lives unaware of this. They believe they are victims of circumstance, bound by fate, controlled by forces beyond their reach. But the truth is, the moment you change your mind, you change your world. Modern science is just now beginning to grasp this concept. Quantum physics has proven that particles do not take form until they are observed. The observer effect, the undeniable fact that consciousness is not just a spectator, but an active participant in reality. Your mind is not inside your body. Your body is inside your mind. And this is where the greatest secret of all is revealed. If your reality is shaped by your thoughts, then what happens when your thoughts are filled with fear, with doubt, with limitation? Your world reflects it. This is why the subconscious mind is so powerful. It is the hidden architect of your reality. It holds the beliefs, the programs, the mental blueprints that determine what you experience. Most people try to change their lives by forcing the external world to bend to their will. But the Hermetic Masters knew better. Reality does not change from the outside in. It changes from the inside out. You do not fight the old. You simply create the new. So how do you do it? How do you reprogram the subconscious and master the law of mentalism? You begin with awareness. Become conscious of your thoughts. Observe them. Are they empowering you or limiting you? Then you shift your focus. What you dwell on expands. Your attention is your creative power. If you focus on fear, you amplify it. If you focus on success, you pull it toward you. And finally, you embody it. The subconscious mind does not respond to logic. It responds to emotion, repetition, and identity. You must feel the new reality as if it were already true. See it, speak it, become it. Because in the end, there is no separation between thought and reality. The only question is, what will you choose to create? There is a hidden symmetry in all things, a reflection, a pattern that repeats itself from the vastness of the cosmos to the smallest particles of your being. The ancients knew this truth. They inscribed it in sacred texts, whispered it in mystery schools, and built entire civilizations upon it. As above, so below, as within, so without. This is the law of correspondence. It means that everything is connected, that the structure of the universe is not random but fractal, repeating itself in endless variations. Look at the spiral of a galaxy, then at the spiral of a seashell, the branching of trees, and the branching of your lungs, the flow of rivers, and the veins beneath your skin. The macrocosm and the microcosm are the same. But the most important reflection of all is the one between your inner world and your external reality. Everything you see, everything you experience, is a direct reflection of what is happening within you. Your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs. They are projected outward, forming the world around you like a mirror. When your mind is in chaos, your life is in chaos. When your heart is filled with doubt, obstacles appear at every turn. But when you cultivate clarity, when you master your internal world, reality begins to align, because the universe does not respond to what you want, it responds to what you are. This is why change must begin within. Most people try to shift their reality by force. They chase wealth, relationships, success, believing that happiness is something outside of them. But they do not realize the external world is only an effect. The cause is within. If you desire peace, you must first cultivate stillness inside your own mind. If you seek abundance, you must first embody a state of abundance. If you long for love, you must first become love itself. Because as within, so without. So how do you apply this law? How do you shift your internal state to transform your external reality? You start by becoming aware. Observe yourself. What emotions dominate your day? What thoughts run through your mind when no one is listening? Then you realign. If your world is not what you desire, change the frequency you are broadcasting. Shift your focus from lack to gratitude, from fear to certainty, from resistance to flow, and finally, you embody it. You do not wait for external proof before believing in your new reality. You become the proof, because the world is not separate from you. It is a reflection of you. Master the mirror, and you master your life. Nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything pulses. Everything vibrates. This is not theory. This is not belief. This is the fundamental nature of reality. At the deepest level, all things, matter, sound, thought, even emotion, are energy in motion. The chair you sit on, the air you breathe, the body you call your own. They may appear solid, but they are not. If you could look close enough, beyond molecules, beyond atoms, beyond subatomic particles, you would find only one thing: vibration. Because nothing is truly still. Not the earth beneath you, not the stars above, not even the space between thoughts. Everything vibrates at its own frequency, and those frequencies determine its nature. Science has already proven this. Sound waves travel through the air at different speeds, their frequencies shaping what we hear. Music has the power to heal, or to create discord, all depending on vibration. Light itself, what we perceive as color, is nothing more than frequency. A difference in vibration determines whether something appears red, blue, or invisible to the human eye. Your own body radiates electromagnetic energy. Your heart produces a measurable field that extends several feet beyond you, shifting with every emotion you feel. But the most powerful vibration of all is thought. Your mind is not silent. It is constantly broadcasting frequencies. Your thoughts, your emotions, your very state of being, they all carry a signature, a pulse, a vibration that moves outward into the universe. And what you emit, you attract. This is why fear breeds more fear, why those who dwell in scarcity seem to experience endless lack, why people trapped in anger or resentment find their lives filled with conflict, because vibration does not lie. It is the silent architect of your reality. It shapes the people you meet, the circumstances you encounter, the life you live. But here is where the secret is revealed. Vibration can be changed. You are not stuck at your current frequency. You are not bound by the energy of your past. You can rise. You can shift from fear to power, from doubt to certainty, from lack to abundance. And the moment you do, your world begins to change. So how do you raise your vibration? You begin with awareness. Feel the energy you carry. Observe your emotions. Notice the frequency of your thoughts. Are they light, expansive, or heavy, constricted, draining? Then you disrupt the pattern. Change your state. Move your body. Breathe deeply. Shift your focus to something that lifts you. And finally, align with the energy you seek. If you want abundance, vibrate at the frequency of gratitude. If you want peace, embody stillness. If you desire love, radiate it from within. Because vibration is not just what you experience, it is what you become. And once you master it, you master everything. Everything has its opposite. Hot and cold, light and dark, expansion and contraction, love and fear. At first glance, they seem like separate forces, two extremes locked in endless conflict. But look closer, and you will see the truth. They are not separate. They are the same thing, measured at different degrees. Cold is not the absence of heat. It is less heat. Darkness is not the opposite of light. It is light at its lowest intensity. Fear and courage, they are the same force, one paralyzed, the other in motion. This is the law of polarity. It is the reason why life moves in cycles, why emotions shift, why success and failure are not opposites, but points on the same spectrum. And the secret hidden within this law. If everything has its opposite, then everything can be transformed. Pain can become power. Weakness can become strength. Fear can become fuel. But only if you understand how to shift. Most people are trapped within their emotions, believing that whatever they feel in the moment is absolute. If they feel lost, they assume they are lost. If they feel hopeless, they assume they are doomed. But what they fail to see is that they are only on one side of the spectrum. And if there is one truth about the universe, it is this. All things move. No state is permanent. Not sadness, not failure, not fear. The pendulum always swings. And those who understand this can control the direction. This is why the masters of influence, media, politics, corporations, use this law against you. They know that if they can pull you to one extreme, you will swing to the other. Keep people in fear, and they will seek security. Keep them in chaos, and they will beg for order. Make them feel weak, and they will submit to power. Polarity is the hidden force behind every war, every movement, every societal shift. And yet, the same principle that is used to manipulate can be used to awaken. Because once you recognize that you are never truly stuck, that every negative state carries the seed of its opposite, you realize the power you have, the power to shift. If you are in fear, move toward confidence, not all at once, but 1 degree at a time. If you are in despair, shift toward hope. If you are drowning in failure, find the smallest victory and expand it. This is mental alchemy. You do not fight the darkness. You increase the light. You do not resist fear. You generate courage. You do not accept limitation. You elevate your perception. Because the greatest secret of polarity is this: nothing is fixed. Everything can be transformed. And the moment you understand this, you will never be powerless again. Everything in existence moves in cycles. The tides rise, then fall. The sun ascends, then sets. The seasons shift from warmth to cold, from growth to stillness, from light to dark and back again. And just like nature, your life follows a rhythm. Moments of joy are followed by moments of challenge. Success gives way to struggle, only to rise again. The pendulum swings, always. This is the law of rhythm, and whether you realize it or not, it governs everything. Your energy, your emotions, your finances, your relationships, your very existence moves to an invisible beat, a pattern so ancient and unbreakable that even the stars themselves follow its command. But here is what most people fail to understand. When they are high, they believe it will last forever. When they are low, they believe they will never rise again. Both are illusions, because nothing stays the same. Those who cling to the highs, who chase pleasure, who grasp at success, who fear the fall, inevitably suffer when the rhythm shifts. And those who sink into the lows, who drown in failure, who collapse in hardship, who forget that cycles must always turn, become trapped in their own despair. But the wise do not fight the rhythm. They learn to ride it. They do not resist the lows, because they understand they are temporary. They do not cling to the highs, because they know they too will pass. They remain centered, untouched by the movement of the pendulum. And that is where true power is found, because those who master this law master time itself. But while some use this law to awaken, others use it to control. The elite, those who rule behind the curtain, have studied rhythm for centuries. They understand that societies, like individuals, move in cycles, that fear leads to submission, that chaos breeds dependence, that scarcity makes people easy to manipulate, and so they manufacture crisis and relief. They create economic booms and then orchestrate collapses. They fuel social unrest and then offer stability. They engineer problems so they can sell the solutions. They do not fear the rhythm, they control it. But here is the greatest secret of all. You do not have to be at the mercy of these forces. You can break free. You can step outside the swing of the pendulum by detaching, by observing, by refusing to be pulled into the illusion of permanence. How? By remembering that this moment, whatever it is only a phase. When you are high, remain humble. When you are low, remain patient. When the world around you moves in chaos, find your stillness, because the rhythm will continue with or without you. The only question is, will you be controlled by it, or will you rise above it? Nothing happens by chance. There are no accidents, no coincidences, no random strokes of luck. Everything is the result of a cause. And every action, every thought, every decision you make sets forces into motion, creating ripples that shape your future. This is the law of cause and effect. It is one of the most powerful principles in the universe. And yet, most people spend their lives completely blind to it. They believe life is happening to them, that success or failure is a matter of luck, that their circumstances are beyond their control. But the truth is, they are simply unaware of the causes they have set in motion. Because whether you realize it or not, you are always playing a role in this law. You are either the cause of your life or its effect. And those who remain on the effect side, those who do not understand how this law works, are the easiest to control. The powerful have known this for centuries. Governments, corporations, secret societies, they do not react to the world, they shape it. They create crises to engineer fear. They plant ideas to shape beliefs. They introduce policies, trends, and technologies, knowing exactly what response they will trigger. They are masters of the unseen forces that guide human behavior. They understand that if they control the causes, they control the effects. And that is why the masses remain asleep, because instead of directing their own destiny, they are caught in the effects of someone else's intentions. But here is the secret they do not want you to know. The moment you become conscious of this law, the moment you stop reacting and start creating, everything changes. You begin to see the connections, the patterns, the invisible strings that move the world. And instead of being tossed by the waves of fate, you become the force that moves the tide. So how do you shift? How do you move from effect to cause? You start with responsibility. You own everything. Every choice, every outcome, every part of your reality, no matter how difficult, no matter how unfair, was shaped by a cause, and that cause can be traced back to you. Then you become deliberate. No more aimless thoughts. No more unconscious actions. No more blaming the world for your circumstances. You decide what you will create. You set the intention. You take the action. You direct the energy. Because the future is not written in the stars. It is written in the choices you make today. The question is, will you create your destiny, or will you let someone else create it for you? There are two forces that shape all things. One is active, the other is receptive. One is the spark, the other is the space that nurtures the fire. One is motion, the other is stillness. Masculine and feminine. These are not just human traits, not just biological identities. They are the fundamental forces of creation itself. The law of gender states that everything, every being, every thought, every action carries both masculine and feminine energy. One cannot exist without the other. The sun and the moon. Expansion and contraction. Logic and intuition. The force that pushes forward and the force that allows, receives, and transforms. Look at nature. The seed is masculine, the initiating spark, the potential. The soil is feminine, the space that nurtures and gives life. Together, they create a tree, a forest, an entire ecosystem. This balance exists within you. Your masculine energy is your drive, your focus, your ability to act. It is the fire that moves you towards your goals, that gives you strength, that fuels ambition. Your feminine energy is your intuition, your receptivity, your ability to flow. It is the stillness that connects you to deeper wisdom, that nurtures ideas into existence that feels beyond logic. One without the other leads to imbalance. Too much masculine energy and you burn out, pushing endlessly forward, never pausing to receive, never allowing things to unfold. Too much feminine energy and you become stagnant, floating in ideas and emotions but never acting, never bringing your visions to life. True power is found in balance. The masters of the past knew this. The great thinkers, inventors, leaders, they were not just logical, but intuitive. They were not just dreamers, but doers. They blended both forces to shape the world. But there is a deeper secret hidden within this law. The energy of creation, the very life force that fuels existence, is also the energy of sexual transmutation. This is knowledge that has been buried, distorted, hidden from you. Because those who learn to harness and redirect their own creative energy become unstoppable. Sexual energy is not just physical, it is life force. The raw, untapped power that, when properly controlled, can be channeled into creation, into genius, into mastery. This is why the greatest minds, Da Vinci, Tesla, ancient yogis, mystics, and warriors, understood the power of self-control. Not suppression, but redirection. Because energy, once refined, becomes pure power. So how do you apply this law? You begin by becoming aware of your own imbalance. Do you lack action? Strengthen your masculine force. Do you resist intuition? Embrace your feminine flow. Then you merge the two. Feel your fire, but do not let it consume you. Feel your stillness, but do not let it stop you. Move, create, align. Because when you master these forces, you master the very essence of creation itself. Alchemy was never just about turning lead into gold. The true alchemist knew that the greatest transformation was not of metal, but of the mind. Because your thoughts, your emotions, your energy, they are all raw material. And just like fire refines metal, you have the power to refine yourself. This is mental alchemy, the ability to shift your internal state at will, to take fear and transmute it into confidence, to take scarcity and turn it into abundance, to take the chaos of the mind and shape it into focus, power, and clarity. Most people believe that emotions happen to them, that if fear arises, they must feel afraid. If doubt creeps in, they must hesitate. If negativity appears, they must accept it. But the truth is, emotions are not fixed. They are energy, and energy can be transformed. Everything you feel carries a frequency. Fear vibrates low, confidence vibrates high, sadness moves slowly, passion ignites instantly, but all of it is the same energy, just at different intensities. And the secret hidden within this law: if you can shift the frequency, you can shift the state. So how do you do it? It begins with awareness. Observe the emotion without judgment. Do not resist it. Do not fight it. Simply witness it. Feel where it lives in your body. Breathe into it. Then change the movement. Fear and excitement are nearly identical. The heart races, the body tenses, the mind sharpens. The only difference: one makes you freeze, the other makes you act. So act, move, speak, breathe deeper, stand taller. Trick your body into believing the shift has already occurred, and your mind will follow. Now, redirect the focus. If you are drowning in scarcity, do not focus on what is missing. Focus on what is present. If you feel weak, do not dwell on what you lack. Call forward what is strong, because what you focus on expands. The final step is embodiment. Your subconscious does not respond to logic. It responds to experience. It believes what you tell it, not with words, but with action. So if you want confidence, walk like you already have it. If you want power, speak with the certainty of one who cannot fail. If you want abundance, carry yourself as if wealth flows through you. Because reality does not change from the outside in. It changes from the inside out. And the moment you master this shift, the moment you realize that every emotion, every thought, every frequency can be alchemized into something greater, that is the moment you stop reacting to life and start creating it. You were never meant to be free. From the moment you were born, you were placed inside a system, a carefully designed illusion built to keep you blind, obedient, and unaware of your own power. They gave it a name: society, the real world, the way things are. But what they never told you is that it's a prison. Not a prison of walls, a prison of thought. They programmed you to believe in limits, to follow the rules without question, to live in fear of stepping outside the lines. They told you what success looks like, what failure looks like, what is possible, what is impossible, and you accepted it, not because it was true, but because it was all you had ever known. This is the Matrix, not a movie, not a metaphor, but a real system of control designed to trap your mind so that you never question the reality placed in front of you. But those who understand the hermetic laws escape, because once you see the mechanisms of control, you are no longer ruled by them. The law of mentalism teaches that reality is not something external. It is a projection of consciousness, which means the moment you take control of your mind, you take control of your world. The law of correspondence reveals that the patterns in society are mirrors of the individual mind. As above, so below. The fear they instill in the masses is nothing more than the fear they want you to carry within yourself. Break the fear, and you break the control. The law of vibration shows that everything, thoughts, emotions, beliefs, carries a frequency. Keep the masses in low vibrations, fear, distraction, division, and they remain weak. Raise your own vibration, and you rise beyond the reach of manipulation. The law of polarity proves that every force has an opposite. If control exists, then so does liberation. If illusion exists, then so does truth. And the moment you shift your awareness, you move toward the opposite pole, from prisoner to master. This is why the elite study Hermeticism, but never teach it. They use it to create the world they desire, while ensuring you never realize you can do the same. But now, you know. So how do you break free? You begin by questioning everything. Every belief, every rule, every limitation you've accepted without thought. You observe, not with fear, but with clarity. See the patterns, the mechanisms of control. Recognize that every system built to contain you is only as strong as your belief in it. Then, you step outside of it. You reclaim your mind. You reclaim your power. You start thinking, acting, and vibrating at a level that no system can touch. Because the matrix does not hold you, your mind does. And once you free that, you are free forever. Power is never given, it is taken. And those who hold it, the rulers, the architects of society, the unseen hands that shape the world, have always understood one thing. The Hermetic laws are real. They are not myths, not superstition. They are the invisible forces that govern reality itself. And for centuries, the elite have studied them, mastered them, and used them to shape the world in their image. They built mystery schools, where only the most worthy could learn the secrets of energy, vibration, and influence. They formed secret societies, protecting this knowledge from the masses, while ensuring their own bloodlines remained in control. Egyptian priesthoods, the Pythagorean Brotherhood, the Knights Templar, the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians. Through war, through empire, through deception, this knowledge has always been preserved, but never made public, because a world where everyone understands these laws is a world where no one can be controlled. So instead, they hid it. They removed it from education, replacing it with systems that teach obedience instead of power. They filled the world with distractions, ensuring the masses would be too consumed by survival, entertainment, and division to ever look deeper. They made mentalism, the idea that thoughts create reality, seem like fantasy, while using it themselves to shape the world through propaganda and belief manipulation. They buried the law of vibration, teaching people that success and wealth are about hard work alone, while they silently align themselves with abundance through frequency and intention. They distorted the law of rhythm, keeping societies locked in cycles of crisis and relief, destruction and rebirth, controlling the pendulum so the world always swings in their favor. They understand the mechanics of polarity. They know that by pushing people to one extreme, fear, anger, division, they can make them beg for the opposite, safety, control, submission. Nothing in history has happened by accident. The rise and fall of nations, the movements of wealth, the wars that reshape borders and economies, all of it is designed, not through brute force, not through luck, but through mastery of the unseen. So where does that leave you? If you are still waiting for the world to change, you are already losing. If you believe that power is reserved for the chosen few, you are still asleep. Because these laws are not theirs to own, they are yours to master. The only reason the elite rule this world is because they apply these principles, while the rest of the world ignores them. But now, you know the question is, will you stay in the dark, or will you reclaim what was always meant to be yours? Most people who discover these laws never master them. They read, they listen, they get inspired, and then nothing changes. Why? Because knowing is not the same as understanding, and understanding is not the same as application. These laws are not theories to be studied. They are forces to be lived. They require more than belief. They require alignment, action, and discipline. But this is where most people fail. They hear that the law of mentalism states that thoughts shape reality, and yet they continue feeding their minds with fear, doubt, and limitation. They dwell on problems, obsess over obstacles, and wonder why their lives do not change. They learn that the law of vibration controls attraction, yet they remain trapped in low frequencies, anger, resentment, victimhood, never realizing that they are repelling the very things they desire. They understand that polarity allows them to shift from darkness to light, yet they let their emotions control them, reacting instead of transmuting. They forget that these laws do not bend to wishful thinking. They respond only to those who embody them. And for those who hesitate, who remain trapped in the same habits, the same cycles, the same illusions, the laws continue to work, but not in their favor. Because here's the truth most people refuse to accept. These laws are always active. They do not choose sides. They do not care if you believe in them or not. They are the silent architects of reality, shaping your life with or without your awareness. Which means every negative thought, every self-doubt, every moment spent waiting instead of acting is setting forces into motion, just as surely as confidence, intention, and clarity would. So how do you break free? You start by taking back control of your mind. You become intentional with your focus. You train yourself to recognize low-frequency thoughts and refuse to entertain them. You replace passivity with action, hesitation with certainty. And most importantly, you stop waiting for proof. You do not wait for success before believing in yourself. You do not wait for wealth before shifting into abundance. You do not wait for happiness before embodying joy. Because the universe does not work that way. You must become the cause before you see the effect. This is where most people fail. They try to manipulate the external world before mastering their internal world. They wait for signs instead of creating them. But the moment you stop waiting, the moment you decide to embody these laws, not just in thought, but in action, in vibration, in identity, that is the moment everything shifts. Because the universe is not testing you, it is waiting for you. Energy is everything. It is the unseen force behind thought, emotion, and action. It moves through you, around you, shaping the reality you experience. And those who understand this, those who learn to amplify and direct their energy, become unstoppable. Because knowing the hermetic laws is one thing, but applying them with power requires mastering your own energetic state. Every thought carries frequency. Every emotion generates vibration. Every breath, every movement, every word spoken, they all send signals into the universe, influencing what returns to you. But most people move through life unaware of this. Their energy is scattered, chaotic, unrefined. They let the outside world dictate their internal state, reacting instead of creating. They absorb fear, stress, and negativity from their environment, never realizing they have the power to shift it. But energy is not random. It can be cultivated. It can be strengthened. It can be wielded. So how do you do it? You begin with the breath. Your breath is not just air moving in and out of your lungs. It It is a bridge between the conscious and the unconscious, between the mind and the body, between thought and manifestation. When your breath is shallow, your energy is weak. When your breath is deep and controlled, you generate power. Slow, rhythmic breathing shifts your nervous system, moving you from stress into clarity. Controlled breath amplifies focus, stillness, and presence. Ancient masters knew this. The yogis called it pranayama, the science of breath control. The Taoists used it to cultivate qi, the life force. The mystics understood that breath is the foundation of all energy work. And when breath is mastered, the next step is movement. Because energy does not flow through a body that is stagnant. Every emotion, every thought, every past experience leaves an imprint in your system. If that energy is not released, it becomes stuck. It weighs you down. It distorts your vibration. This is why physical movement is not just about health. It is about energy liberation. Stretching, shaking, dancing, flowing. All of it moves stagnant energy, clears blocks, and raises your frequency. And once the energy is moving, you direct it. Visualization is not imagination. It is energy manipulation. When you see something in your mind with clarity and emotion, you begin to generate its frequency. You start vibrating at the level of that reality before it even exists in the physical world. This is how energy amplifies manifestation. And when combined, breath, movement, intention, and focus, these techniques unlock something profound. They align you with the unseen forces that govern reality. They turn knowledge into power, and they ensure that the Hermetic laws are not just something you understand, but something you embody. Stillness is power. In a world that constantly pulls you in every direction, distractions, noise, chaos, those who master stillness master themselves. And those who master themselves master reality. This is why meditation is not just relaxation. It is not just a tool for peace or clarity. It is a gateway, a direct path to understanding and applying the Hermetic laws. Because if the law of mentalism teaches us that everything is mind, then the ability to control that mind is the ability to control everything. But most people never develop this skill. They live in reaction, consumed by endless thought, trapped in mental loops they never chose. They let their minds run wild, never realizing that their thoughts are shaping their world. Meditation is how you take back control. It is how you stop being a servant to the mind and become its master. It begins with awareness. Sit in silence. Observe your thoughts as they arise, without judgment, without attachment. Watch them come and go, like waves on the surface of the ocean, and then go deeper. Beneath the thoughts, beneath the noise, there is a space of stillness, and in that stillness, something shifts. You realize that you are not your thoughts. You are the observer, the presence behind them, the consciousness that chooses. And when you reach that level of awareness, everything changes. The mind becomes a tool, no longer a prison. Your focus sharpens, your emotions stabilize. The external world, once overwhelming, once unpredictable, becomes something you can shape rather than react to. Because as within, so without. A chaotic mind creates a chaotic life. A focused mind creates a reality of precision and intention. The most powerful beings in history understood this. Warriors, philosophers, mystics, rulers, they all practiced some form of stillness training, because they knew that before you can influence the world, you must first influence yourself. So how do you begin? Start small. 5 minutes. Eyes closed. Breathe deeply. Feel the rise and fall of your breath. When thoughts come, let them pass. The goal is not to stop thinking. The goal is to detach, to step back, to witness. And with time, you will begin to notice something extraordinary. You are no longer thrown by emotions, no longer trapped in mental spirals, no longer reacting to life as if you are powerless. Because the truth is, you were never powerless. You were simply distracted. Meditation removes the distractions. It returns you to yourself. And once you are there, fully aware, fully present, fully in command, there is nothing you cannot create. Everything you desire already exists. The success, the abundance, the love, the power. It is all out there vibrating at its own frequency. But here's the truth most people never understand. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. The law of vibration states that everything, thoughts, emotions, circumstances, carries a frequency, a signature, a pulse. And the universe does not respond to wishes. It does not respond to hope. It responds to alignment. If your thoughts are tuned to scarcity, you will experience lack. If your emotions are trapped in fear, you will attract chaos. If your mind is filled with doubt, opportunities will slip away. Not because life is against you, but because you are vibrating at a level that matches those outcomes. The world is not happening to you. It is responding to you. And the moment you shift your frequency, everything begins to change. So how do you do it? How do you raise your vibration to match the reality you desire? You begin with awareness. Tune into your energy. Observe your emotions. Notice the thoughts running through your mind. Are they expansive or are they constricting? Are they aligned with the future you seek, or do they pull you deeper into the past? Then you disrupt the pattern, because vibration is movement. Shift your body, breathe deeply, stand taller, speak with certainty. The way you move, the way you carry yourself, it all sends signals broadcasting who you are becoming. Next, you immerse yourself in the frequency you seek. If you desire abundance, stop speaking in scarcity. Stop surrounding yourself with lack. Step into the energy of wealth, mentally, emotionally, physically. If you seek confidence, stop feeding the vibration of doubt. Embody the energy of someone who already knows their worth. If you want love, start vibrating at the frequency of love before it arrives. Become love. Radiate love. And watch as the world reflects it back. Because here's the secret. The shift happens before the result appears. You do not wait for external proof. You become the proof. And when you hold that vibration consistently, when it is no longer something you practice, but something you are, the universe has no choice. It must respond. Because energy does not lie. And reality always aligns with the frequency you embody. The laws are always working, whether you see them or not, whether you believe in them or not, whether you choose to use them or let them use you. They are not theories. They are not philosophies. They are the mechanics of reality itself. Every moment of your life is proof. Every success, every failure, every so-called coincidence, because nothing is random. The problem is, most people are not paying attention. They move through life unaware, blind to the patterns, blind to the signals, blind to the very forces shaping their existence. But once you start looking, you will see. The law of mentalism, the realization that your thoughts are not just thoughts, but blueprints, that the ideas you dwell on, the emotions you feed, the beliefs you hold, they all materialize into form. Have you ever noticed how a single worry, a single fear, once entertained, begins to manifest in your world. How the more you focus on something, good or bad, the more it shows up. That is mentalism in motion, the law of correspondence, the mirror effect, as within, so without. Look around you. Your relationships, your finances, your health, your environment, they are all reflections of your internal world. Your external struggles are not separate from you. They are projections of what is happening inside. The law of vibration, the undeniable truth that your energy is shaping your reality. Ever walked into a room and felt the atmosphere shift? Ever met someone whose presence was so powerful, so magnetic, that you could feel their energy before they spoke? That is vibration, and the energy you hold, the way you think, the way you feel, the way you move, determines the reality you attract. The law of rhythm, the ebb and flow of life. Ever noticed how things come in waves? How moments of success are followed by challenges? How seasons of hardship always give way to something new? That is rhythm at work. And those who resist the downswings, who fight the cycles instead of flowing with them, suffer the most. The law of cause and effect, the realization that luck does not exist. Everything you experience has a cause, a choice made, a thought entertained, an action taken or avoided. Look back, connect the dots, trace every event to its origin, and you will see nothing was ever an accident. Once you start recognizing these patterns, you can no longer play the victim. You can no longer say life is unfair. You can no longer pretend that you are powerless, because you will know the truth. The laws are always working. The only question is, are they working for you or against you? Wealth is not about luck. Success is not random. Every empire, every fortune, every breakthrough, they all follow the same unseen principles. The Hermetic laws are not just for mystics or philosophers. They are the foundation of power, of influence, of creation. Those who rise to the top, the visionaries, the game changers, the wealth builders, understand these laws, whether they realize it or not. And those who do not, they struggle. They fight against forces they cannot see, believing success is about effort alone, about working harder, grinding longer, pushing endlessly forward. But the truth is, hard work without alignment is wasted motion. If you want to master wealth, if you want to build something unstoppable, you must master the forces that govern success itself. It begins with mentalism. Everything starts in the mind. Every company, every innovation, every empire existed as a thought before it became reality. The greatest entrepreneurs, the wealthiest minds, they do not just work harder. They think differently. They hold a vision so clear, so unshakable, that reality has no choice but to conform to it. They do not wait for proof. They create the proof. Then comes vibration. Money is energy. Success is frequency. And most people are vibrating at the level of scarcity, uncertainty, and fear. They chase wealth, but their energy is locked in lack. You cannot attract abundance while vibrating at the level of desperation. You must align with the frequency of prosperity before it arrives. This is why confidence attracts investment, why certainty creates momentum, why the wealthiest people always seem to attract more wealth, because they are tuned to the right frequency. Then, there is cause and effect. There is no luck in business. There are only actions that create results. The most powerful people in the world do not react to circumstances. They create them. They set things in motion long before anyone else sees the effect. They make decisions today that shape the world a decade from now. Every action, every choice, every investment in time, energy, or resources, it is all planting seeds. Those who understand this do not waste time. They move with intention. Then comes rhythm. The economy moves in cycles. Industries rise and fall. Markets expand and contract. Those who do not understand the law of rhythm get crushed by the downturns. They panic. They lose everything. But those who do, they ride the waves. They anticipate shifts. They move before the market moves. They do not fear the lows. They prepare for them, knowing that every winter is followed by spring. Wealth is not about luck. Success is not a mystery. It is about understanding the laws that govern reality and using them to build something unstoppable. So the only question is, are you ready to stop chasing wealth and start creating it? Power is not just about wealth. It is about influence, presence, the ability to move people, not through force, but through energy. Every relationship, every connection, every social interaction follows unseen principles. Those who understand these laws attract effortlessly, command respect, inspire loyalty. And those who do not, they struggle, they chase, they try to force relationships, never realizing that attraction of any kind is not about pursuit. It is about alignment. The law of mentalism is the foundation of all social power. Your perception of yourself, your confidence, your energy, your inner dialogue shapes the way the world responds to you. If you believe you are unworthy, if you carry doubt, if you expect rejection, you will experience it. Not because the world is against you, but because your mind is broadcasting that frequency. And energy does not lie. The law of vibration reveals the deeper secret. People do not connect through words alone. They connect through energy. You have felt this before. The presence of someone who radiates certainty, charisma, magnetism, without even speaking. And you have felt the opposite. The presence of someone trying too hard, seeking approval, carrying an energy of neediness that repels instead of attracts. The difference? Vibration. Those who master their own frequency draw others in without effort. They do not chase. They do not convince. They simply exist in alignment with the energy of connection, and the world mirrors it back to them. The law of polarity shows why conflict and harmony are two sides of the same force. Most people believe that opposites repel, but the truth is, opposites create attraction. Masculine and feminine energy, logic and emotion, strength and softness. Every great relationship, romantic, professional, or personal, is built on the balance of opposites. Too much of one force, and the connection weakens. But when polarity is in balance, the attraction is unstoppable. Then there is the law of cause and effect. There is no mystery to social power. People are drawn to those who make them feel something. Safety, excitement, inspiration, passion, certainty. The most magnetic people are not just those who speak well or look a certain way. They are those who understand the effect they create. They do not leave interactions to chance. They do not hope for influence. They create it through presence, through energy, through the mastery of how they make others feel. Because in the end, people will forget your words. They will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Master that, and you will never lack connection, influence, or power again. Nothing is random. The people you meet, the moments that change your life, the patterns that repeat over and over again. Most call it coincidence, luck, fate. But those who understand the law of correspondence know the truth. As within, so without. Reality is not separate from you. It is a reflection, a mirror of your inner world, projected onto the screen of your life. And when your energy shifts, the world shifts with you. This is the secret behind synchronicity. The right opportunity appearing at the perfect time. A name, a number, a message that keeps repeating until you finally notice it. A door opening just as you were thinking about walking through it. These are not accidents. They are signals. Signs that your internal world is aligning with something greater. Because the universe does not speak in words, it speaks in patterns. Everything vibrates at a frequency, and those frequencies attract their match. When you think with clarity, when your energy is aligned, when your actions are in harmony with your desires, synchronicities appear. Not because the universe suddenly decided to favor you, but because you finally became a match for the reality you seek. Science is beginning to catch up with what mystics have known for centuries. Quantum physics shows that particles across vast distances can become entangled, mirroring each other's movements with no visible connection. The brain, your own consciousness, is wired to detect hidden patterns, subtle connections, invisible threads weaving everything together. But most people ignore them. They dismiss the signs. They assume life is chaotic, unpredictable, because they have not yet trained themselves to see. But once you do, once you start recognizing the patterns, the connections, the synchronicities, you realize that nothing has ever been out of place. You are always being guided. So how do you use this? You begin by paying attention. Write down repeating symbols, numbers, events. Notice the messages life is sending you. Then, test the law. Shift your thoughts. Change your focus. See how reality responds. Because once you understand that life is not happening to you, but rather happening through you, you stop feeling lost. You stop doubting the path. And you start co-creating with the very fabric of existence itself. Power is not something you wait for. It is something you awaken. For centuries, the great minds of history, the mystics, the alchemists, the initiates of secret orders, have understood that knowledge alone is not enough. Understanding the hermetic laws is one thing, but to truly use them, to truly embody them, requires something deeper. Ritual. Because ritual is not superstition. It is not empty tradition. It is the art of aligning your energy, your mind, your intention with the forces that shape reality. The ancients knew this. They did not simply study vibration. They practiced it through mantras, chants, sound frequencies that altered consciousness itself. They did not just observe the connection between the cosmos and the self. They embodied it through breathwork, movement, meditation, practices that synchronize their energy with the universe. They did not just theorize about cause and effect. They set causes into motion through fire, through water, through symbols and sigils that turn thought into form. But modern society has abandoned these practices, and in doing so, it has severed itself from the deeper forces of existence. Yet, those who still practice them, those who remember, move through the world differently. So what are these rituals? And how can they be used to unlock your true power? It begins with breath. Breath is the bridge between the mind and the body, the conscious and the unconscious, the seen and the unseen. The mystics of the East called it pranayama. The warriors of the West used it to enter altered states. The initiates of secret orders controlled it to amplify focus, to expand awareness, to sharpen the mind into a weapon of intent. Slow the breath, and you slow the mind. Control the breath, and you control the self. Then there is sound. Sound is frequency. Frequency is vibration, and vibration shapes reality. From the monks of Tibet to the sacred chants of Egypt, sound has been used to shift consciousness, to elevate energy, to bring the body into resonance with higher states. Want proof? Take a glass, play the right frequency, and it shatters. Now imagine what that same principle does to the walls of limitation inside your mind. Then there are symbols, not decorations, not random markings, but blueprints of energy, maps of intention, tools of manifestation. The ancients used sigils, geometric patterns, sacred scripts, each designed to direct thought into form, each carrying the weight of centuries of knowledge. They understood that the mind is powerful, but the mind combined with ritual, that is where reality bends. So how do you use this? You begin by reclaiming these practices. You breathe with awareness. You speak with intention. You surround yourself with symbols of power. You align your daily actions with ancient wisdom. Because ritual is not about religion. It is not about superstition. It is about mastering the unseen forces that shape your world. And once you do, the world will never feel the same again. Manifestation is not magic. It is not luck. It is a process, a science, a precise interaction between energy, intention, and action. And while the modern world has reduced it to wishful thinking, to empty affirmations and vision boards that never seem to work, those who understand the deeper mechanics know the truth. There are techniques, ancient, hidden, refined over centuries, methods used by mystics, rulers, and initiates of secret traditions to turn thought into form. The first secret is mental saturation. Most people make the mistake of hoping for what they want, they wish. They visualize for a moment, and then return to their old habits, their old mindset, their old frequency. But manifestation does not respond to occasional focus. It responds to immersion. Those who create their reality live inside their vision. They do not just think about it. They see it, feel it, embody it, until their subconscious believes it is already real. The mind cannot tell the difference between an imagined experience and a real one. And once it accepts something as real, it begins reshaping reality to match it. The second secret is energetic alignment. You cannot manifest wealth while vibrating at the frequency of scarcity. You cannot attract love while radiating fear of abandonment. The universe does not respond to your wants. It responds to your state of being. And that state is determined by what you focus on, what you feel, what you embody every single day. So the real question is not, how do I get what I want? The real question is, who do I need to become? The third secret is repetition and ritual. Manifestation is not a single moment of clarity. It is the daily practice of reinforcing your reality. Every word you speak, every thought you allow, every action you take, it is either aligning you with your vision or pulling you further away. This is why the most powerful manifestors use rituals, not because rituals are magic, but because they program the subconscious. Mantras, sigils, writing intentions repeatedly, moving the body in specific ways. Every repeated act strengthens the neural pathways, the energetic pathways, the gravitational pull toward your desired outcome. The fourth secret is letting go. This is where most fail. They obsess. They cling. They try to force the outcome instead of trusting the process. But energy does not flow where there is resistance. Manifestation works when you act with certainty, and then release the need to control every step. Like planting a seed, you water it, you nourish it, but you do not dig it up every day to see if it's growing. You trust, you align, you allow, then it appears. Not because you forced it, but because you became a match for it. You have heard the laws, you have studied the principles, but knowledge without action is nothing. So now, it is time for proof. For the next 24 hours, you will test these laws for yourself. Not in theory, not in belief, but in real time, in your own life. Because once you see them at work, once you experience the power of your own energy, your own thoughts, your own vibration affecting the world around you, there will be no more doubt. So here is the experiment. For the next 24 hours, you will become hyper-aware of everything. Every thought, every interaction, every moment of synchronicity. You will become an observer of the unseen forces shaping your reality. It begins with mentalism. From the moment you wake up, you will control your thoughts. You will not allow doubt, fear, or limitation to take root. You will think only in terms of certainty, clarity, and success. Watch how the world reacts. Then, correspondence. You will recognize that everything around you, your relationships, your circumstances, your conversations, are a reflection of your inner world. Change your inner dialogue and watch how the external shifts to match it. Next, vibration. You will be conscious of your energy. If you feel yourself slipping into negativity, stress, or frustration, stop. Shift. Change your posture. Breathe deeper. Move with intention. Raise your frequency and watch how the energy of those around you shifts in response. Then polarity. Every situation that arises, you will ask, where is the opposite? If you face a challenge, you will immediately look for the hidden opportunity. If you feel resistance, you will find the momentum on the other side. You will prove to yourself that no state is permanent. Everything can be shifted. Now, rhythm. You will watch for cycles, the flow of your emotions, the highs and the lows, the pull of the pendulum. But instead of reacting, you will remain centered. You will flow with the rhythm instead of fighting it. And by doing so, you will remain in control. Then, cause and effect. Every action, every word, every choice you make today will be deliberate. No autopilot, no randomness. You will act as a cause, not an effect. And you will watch as the world responds in ways you never noticed before. And finally, the law of gender. You will balance your energies. You will act when it is time to act, but you will also learn when to allow. You will blend strength with intuition, motion with stillness. You will align. And when the 24 hours are over, look back, look at the patterns, the shifts, the moments that could not have been coincidence. Because by then, you will have your proof. The laws are real. They are always working. The only difference now is that you can see them. Everything is connected. You have studied each law. You have seen how they shape thought, energy, reality itself. But the greatest secret, the truth that separates those who understand from those who master, is this. These laws do not work alone. They are not separate forces, not individual principles. They are a system, a blueprint of reality so precise, so absolute, that once you learn to see it, you can never unsee it. Mentalism, the foundation. Everything is mind. Your reality begins in thought, shaped by belief, projected outward. Correspondence, as within, so without. The external world is a reflection of your internal state. Shift the mind, and the world must shift with it. Vibration, the movement of energy. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. Your frequency determines your reality. Polarity, the hidden key to transformation. every force has an opposite. Fear becomes power. Lack becomes abundance. Darkness holds the seed of light. Rhythm, the cycles of existence. Everything moves, everything flows. The pendulum swings, but those who remain centered rise above its pull. Cause and effect, the game of creation. Nothing is random. Every action, every thought sets forces into motion. The masters do not react to life, they create it. Gender, the balance of forces, masculine and feminine, action and stillness, motion and receptivity. When aligned, they unlock the power of creation itself. Each law feeds into the next. Each one reinforces the others. Ignore one, and you weaken them all. Master them together, and there is nothing you cannot create. This is the master key. This is why the great minds of history, the builders, the visionaries, the rulers, understood these laws not as separate ideas, but as a single living system, a formula hidden in plain sight. This is why the most powerful people in the world apply them, not by chance, but by design. Because once you align your thoughts, your energy, your actions, reality bends, opportunities appear, synchronicities multiply, the path ahead clears, as if it was always meant for you. Not because it was given to you, but because you became the cause of it. This is where the journey shifts. You no longer ask, how do I use these laws? You begin asking, how do I embody them? Because once they become your nature, once they are no longer something you practice, but something you are, that is the moment you stop playing by the rules of the world and start writing them. Most people drift through life. They react instead of create. They wait instead of decide. They believe that reality is something that happens to them, never realizing that they are shaping it in every moment. But now, you know the truth. You know that your thoughts are not just thoughts. They are blueprints. That your energy is not passive. It is a force. That the world is not random. It is responding to you. So the question is no longer, do these laws work? The question is, will you use them? Because knowledge alone is not enough. The final step, the one that separates those who understand from those who master, is embodiment. It is no longer thinking about the laws. It is no longer practicing them selectively. It is living them. It means taking responsibility for everything. No more blaming circumstances. No more waiting for signs. No more looking outside yourself for answers. It means training your mind until alignment is automatic. Until doubt no longer creeps in. Until your first instinct in any situation is clarity, certainty, creation. It means controlling your frequency, not just when it's easy, but when it's hardest. Anyone can stay positive when things are going well, but a conscious creator holds their vibration steady even in the storm. They do not fall when the world shakes. They remain unmoved. It means seeing every challenge as an opportunity to apply the laws at a higher level. Fear becomes a signal to step forward. Resistance becomes proof that you are on the right path. Obstacles become stepping stones, because a conscious creator does not ask if something is possible. They ask, how do I make it so? And most of all, it means stepping into certainty. No more hesitation, no more second guessing. You do not hope things will change. You do not wish for a better reality. You decide, you create. You move through the world knowing that what you seek is already yours because you are aligned with it, because your energy matches it, because your actions demand it. And once this becomes your nature, once it is no longer something you think about, but something you are, life shifts, reality bends, not because you are forcing it, not because you are lucky, but because you are no longer waiting for permission. You are no longer reacting to the world. You are shaping it, and that is the final step. Something shifts, not in the world, not in your circumstances, in you. At first it's subtle, a sense of clarity, of knowing. Things that once felt impossible now feel inevitable. You start seeing patterns, noticing how everything, every event, every outcome has always been responding to you. Then, the external world begins to reflect the change. Synchronicities become constant. You think of someone, and they call. You desire something, and opportunities appear. Obstacles that once seemed immovable either dissolve or no longer matter. This is what happens when you align with the Hermetic laws. Your mind no longer works against you. It becomes a tool, a precise instrument for shaping reality. Your emotions are no longer unstable forces that control you. You master your vibration, shifting instantly from doubt to certainty, from fear to power. You no longer wait for proof before believing. You believe first, and the world adjusts. You move differently, speak differently. You carry a presence that others feel before you even enter a room. Because your energy is no longer scattered, no longer reactive. It is focused, intentional, magnetic. You begin to experience flow, not as a rare occurrence, but as a natural state. Decisions are effortless. Actions align perfectly with results. Everything unfolds at the right time, in the right way, without force. Not because you are controlling every detail, but because you no longer need to. When you fully align with these laws, you stop chasing, you stop struggling. You realize that nothing is outside of you. That reality is not something to conquer, it is something to command. You become unshakable. Challenges still come, but they do not break you. You see the rhythm, the polarity, the cause behind every effect, and you use it. There is no fear, no hesitation, no need for validation. Because you know who you are. You are no longer a passenger in life. You are the architect, no longer hoping, no longer wishing, creating. And when you reach this level, when alignment is no longer something you practice, but something you embody, there is only one thing left to do: expand. Because at this point, there is no limit, only the next level. And the only question left is, how far will you go? This is it. Everything you have learned, everything you have seen, it all leads to this moment. Because knowledge means nothing without action. Most people will hear these truths and do nothing. They will return to their old patterns, their old thinking, their old reality, not because they have to, but because it is familiar. But for you, there is no going back. You have seen too much. You know now that reality is not fixed. That energy responds to you. That the unseen forces governing this world are the same forces that live within you. And now, the test begins. Not in some distant future. Not when the timing is perfect. Right now. Because life will not wait for you. It will respond to you. Every moment from this point forward is a choice. Will you slip back into unconscious creation? Will you return to the illusion that things just happen to you? Or will you take command? Will you move with certainty, knowing that the laws are always working, whether you use them or not? Will you watch your thoughts, your emotions, your vibration, understanding that they are shaping your world in every second? Will you embody the energy of success before success arrives? Will you trust the process, even when you cannot yet see the outcome? This is where most people fail. They hesitate. They wait for proof before they believe. They let old habits, old doubts, old fears creep back in. But that is not who you are anymore. You have the blueprint. You have the awareness. And now you have a choice. Live as you always have, or step into mastery. Start small. Apply one principle today, then another and another. Watch how reality shifts. Watch how things move in your favor the moment you align. Then go bigger, expand, test the limits. See just how far this knowledge can take you. Because this is not about theories. This is about becoming. And if you have made it this far, then deep down, you already know the truth. You were never meant to be ordinary. You were never meant to be controlled by fear, by limits, by the false belief that reality is outside of your hands. You were meant to create. You were meant to lead. You were meant to master the unseen forces that most will never even recognize. And now, it is time not to wait, not to hesitate, to apply, to embody, to become. Everything you have experienced, everything you have learned, has led you to this moment, because now you know the truth. Reality is not something you wait for. It is not something you react to. It is something you create. Every thought you hold, every emotion you allow, every action you take, they are the brushstrokes of your existence, and you are the artist. Most people will never realize this. They will move through life asleep, believing they are powerless, believing they are victims of chance, of fate, of forces beyond their control. But you are not most people. You have seen behind the illusion. You have studied the blueprint. You have felt the power that has always been within you. And now you must decide what to do with it. Will you let old habits, old fears, old beliefs pull you back into unconscious creation? Or will you rise? Will you move through the world knowing that everything bends to the frequency you hold? Will you embody the highest version of yourself? Not someday, not when circumstances improve, but now? Because this is not about waiting. This is about choosing. Choosing to live as a conscious creator. Choosing to hold the vibration of what you seek before it arrives. Choosing to step into certainty, even when the path is still unfolding. Because reality does not respond to hesitation. It responds to mastery. You are not here to be a spectator. You are here to build, to shape, to command. You are here to leave behind the old self. The one who doubted, who questioned, who waited for permission. No more waiting, no more asking. You are the architect of your own reality. So the only question left is, what will you create? This is just the beginning. Because once you see, you can never unsee. You have seen the truth. Reality does not happen to you. You create it. Every thought, every emotion, every intention, they shape the world around you. So now, the choice is yours. Will you let this knowledge fade? Or will you apply it, test it, master it? Which hermetic law resonated with you the most? Comment below and let's start a conversation. If you're ready to go deeper, subscribe now, because this is just the beginning. Energy follows awareness, and now that you see, you can never unsee. Until next time, stay aware, stay empowered, and keep mastering the unseen. Thanks for watching.